Okay, great. Welcome everyone to today's event. My name is Dan Bostrom. I am the Rails Member Engagement Manager. Today's event is the My Library Is Online Roundtable, Adobe Suite for Libraries. And this part is part of a series of events that we are doing to help libraries do their own design. We did one 2 weeks ago, and I'll talk about more of that in a second. And I'm really excited for today's topic. So this is our agenda, and before we get to our presenter, Jennifer, we're going to do some brief welcome and announcements. I'm going to talk a little bit about My Library Is. I do want to note that this event has some Q&A and show and tell, so we're going to do some interactive portions to this event after the presentation. You should have gotten an email from me last week. If you didn't, we're going to do you'll have the opportunity to do some sharing of your own creations, things that you've used Adobe Creative Cloud to create. I also want to note that I still use the term Adobe, I think Adobe Suite, which I think is something that they've phased out, and now it's Adobe Creative Cloud. Yeah, I know I just kind of use those interchangeably, but we are referring to the products that Adobe has, Photoshop, InDesign, and Jennifer is going to talk about how those all kind of connect a little bit. So please just note that. We're definitely going to get you out of here by 3. We might be ending a little bit early, but we'll see in terms of what the questions and answers and show and tell look like. So thanks for sticking it out. Okay, a little bit about the My Library Is campaign, and this is something that has been going on for a couple of years. We're entering year 3 of the campaign, and we launched it in 2019, and it's kind of altered a lot in the way that we've approached it. So at the beginning, it was we were creating a lot of resources that I'm going to talk about in a second here, and we were trying to help libraries tell their story. Now we're doing a little bit more interactive things like this particular online roundtable event. We are hoping to work on some other kind of smaller projects to get libraries more involved in the campaign and doing the campaign for themselves. So there's a lot more. We have an advisory team now, which is great. They are the ones that kind of came up with the idea for this online roundtable, and they also have some projects that they've been working on, which I'll talk about in a second here. Okay, so the talking points, this is something that we created, I think about 2 years ago, and they're wonderful. They are full color documents that you can download and print for your own library. They explain why libraries are important in the age of Google. There are 4 different versions: academic, public, school, and special. They're full color. They're two-sided, so you can use them as leave behinds at programs. You can put them in the mail. You can give them to board members and packets, things like that. They're wonderful. We also have an annotated version available as a Word document, so you can make changes yourself and kind of add your own specific talking points that you have for your community library. So go to the My Libraries website, and that's where you'll find them. We also invite you to be part of the My Library Is campaign, and this is something that's available to anybody, regardless of whether you are a Rails member or IHLS member. You all should be able to log in with your L2 credentials to the My Library Is website, mylibraryis.org. You can post a blog post on there or a library story. The big difference between stories and blog posts: stories will post automatically, so they'll show up right in that feed. Blog posts actually have to be approved and scheduled by Rails staff. So when you submit them, they'll go to a Rails staff member like myself, and I will schedule it to post. And usually we do that within 24 hours. This is a project of the My Library Is advisory team. They've created a monthly newsletter. You can subscribe to this right on the My Library Is website. It arrives the first Monday of every month, so it just went out yesterday. And it's typically a summary of the recent stories and blog posts. A lot of times we will post about videos or resources that people have posted on our Sharing Showcase. There's always additional materials. There's always links to outside resources. So it's a really nice kind of a chock full of advocacy and marketing resources right in one email, which is nice. I just want to make you aware of some other resources that are available from the Rails website. And again, this is something you could also access with your L2 credentials. We did a webinar back in April. It relates very specifically to this topic, which is great. It was marketing with infographics. The presenter was Barbara Alvarez. She's from a library in Wisconsin. She talked a lot about the different types of infographics. And so if you're looking for any inspiration to create an infographic, a graphic that really demonstrates what what the library is, what the library does. I really recommend checking this out. You can access it by logging into the Rails website with your L2 credentials, and then just look for the CE archive page and type in Infographics and you're going to find it. Finally, as I mentioned, this is the second of two online roundtables. We did the first one 2 weeks ago. It was on using Canva for your library, and we were lucky enough to have a great presentation by Samantha Rusk from Vespasian Warner Public Library District. And Samantha kind of walked us through the basics of Canva, how she uses it in her library to do great design. It's a short video. It's only 22 minutes in length. Like today, we only recorded the presentation portion. We didn't do the show and tell or Q&A. So it's really easy to check out, and you do not need your L2 information for this. It's available on the Rails YouTube page. You can check it out whenever you want, 24/7. Okay, so Jennifer, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague Jennifer. Jennifer Amling is from the Mount Prospect Public Library, and she's going to do our presentation today. Jennifer, I'm going to stop sharing, and are you ready to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm actually going to talk for 30 seconds, just a little bit of background on me, and then we will hopefully go to my first share. As Dan mentioned, I'm the head of communications and creative services here at the Mount Prospect Public Library. I've been here about 6 years. Prior to that, I spent 11 years as the marketing and graphics coordinator at the Helen M. Plum Memorial Public Library District. That is a toughie to fit on pencils. I went to school for musical theater. I graduated with a BFA, but in 2009, I went back to school again, got a degree in graphics and web design. That was 2009, so I learned on Quark and Photoshop 4. So a lot of what we're going to look at today is self-taught. I had a department of 6 people here at Mount Prospect Library that includes 2 graphic designers who are not myself. And then I have a programmer, a communications director, and a communications specialist. We're a larger library, about 160 employees, and we serve a population of 54,000 patrons. We do a lot of programming and events, as well as trying to promote services and collections. We use Airtable to keep track of all our requests, and I looked up our stats from last year. So between July 2020 to July 2021, we had 1,029 requests for marketing materials, posters, signs, banners, reading logs, etc. So the reason we use Adobe Cloud, or us old school, old folks call it Adobe Suite. It is very versatile because it is cloud-based. Myself and both of my designers can access any of the cloud files at any time. We also keep some of our files on the network here so we can share them back and forth. So I'm going to take you through my personal design process, how I would take an idea from start to finish. So starting out, all right, here's the sharing the screen part. Starting out, I would be here. This is just a blank postcard template. It's,
okay. Hey, Jennifer, ahead. We can't actually see your screen. Oh,
there you go.
There we got it. We got it. Love it.
Just keep doing that, Dan.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so we're going to start out with a blank template. And let's see, I'm going to actually open, see if it will let me find this. Okay, so what you're seeing on the screen right now, this is basically what a material request would look like that I would get. So the name of the event is FanFest. It's on this date. It's at this library, Geek Out at Mount Prospect Library, blah, 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 crafts, games, cosplay, costumes. What is needed? Okay, we're going to need 11 by 17 poster. We're going to need a scheduled handout. We're going to need a direct mail postcard, a web slide, and a social media post. One of the great things that I really enjoy about using the Adobe Suite or Adobe Cloud, I design mostly in InDesign. That's your layout program. And because I'm using that and my other designers are using that, I can create an initial design that can then be poked and prodded and rescaled to fit all the other things that are needed. So for example, I'm going to show you a direct mail postcard that I would be creating. And then from there, which I won't show you, I would take those same elements once I was satisfied with it, and I would pull them out to make an 11 by 17 poster, or pull them down and skinny it up for a web slide, or square it up for a social media post. So let's see. Whoops, that's not the one I want. It's never the one you want, is it? Okay, so here's my blank. So I would be putting in all of my information, just really basically, and I would come up with something like this. Okay, so I have a photo from our Fan Fest. This is one of our staff members. She was dressed as Ramona Flowers from the Scott Pilgrim graphic design series. So it's mildly interesting. It's fine. You're looking at it and you're like, oh, okay. So MPPL Fan Fest, well, you know, what is that? Okay. So you're kind of getting the very general basics, but you know, if you got this in the mail, you may or may not think it's interesting at all. So how else could we make it interesting? We could change the color. So when you're in InDesign, you have a layers palette, and that's over here. And then you also have a colors palette, which is, those are called swatches, color swatches. So in my layers palette right now, in layer 1, I happen to have everything, which is fine. So layer 2, I can double click on that, and I'm going to make that my background layer. So for my background layer, let's say we want something super fun and colorful. I'm going to pick this bright green. I'm going to go here to my rectangle tool over on the left. I'm going to pull it out behind. Now it's covering it because if you look on the side, I'm pointing with my fingers, folks. This is not helping you. I will use the mouse. If we look over here, the background is on top of my content layer. So I'm going to need to pull my background underneath, and then you can see the green behind the postcard. So of course, with this, we can choose almost any color in the rainbow. Double click on your color and we can make it purple, or we can make it orangey colored, whatever we think. So we're like, okay, so now this orangey colored postcard comes in the mail. Am I excited to go to Fan Fest? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. So what else could we do? All right, that's the green one. All right, so what else could we do? We could pull this photo of our staff member out and maybe cut her out and blow her up. Not blow her up with a bomb, just blow her up in Photoshop. So now I'm going to play the screen sharing game to find Photoshop. And hopefully y'all can see that. Okay, so now we're in Photoshop. So here's Andrea. She's got her big mallet and she's got a poster, but she's got this really busy background with all of this stone and all of this elevator stuff. So maybe that's not the best thing that we want. So if you are on the newest version of Cloud Photoshop, you're going to go over here. 1, 2, 3. Yes.
Hey, yeah, Jennifer, we're seeing, for some reason, we're seeing just a sliver of the Photoshop right now. Yeah, okay. I'm not sure how that happened.
It's because I'm working on 3 screens.
Okay. All right.
Because that's the setup I have here. I'll try not to move anything once I share it.
You have 2 more screens than I do.
Yes. Wow. Okay. You know, I'm a professional here. Okay. Can you see Andrea and my cursor now?
We got it.
Yay!
We got it. Yep.
We'll just keep doing this, folks. Thank you so much for your patience. I do not obviously teach on Zoom ever. So bear with me. I promise it will be fun. Okay. So again, we're going to go over here now that you can see the palette. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to go to Object Selection Tool. Now, you'd think you'd want to go to a Magic Wand tool because Magic Wands seem like they should do anything and everything perfectly and wonderfully. But that is actually not what you want. You want to go to Object Selection Tool. And this is where the magic does happen. I'm going to select our Ramona Flowers here, just with a box, and it's going to think for a minute. Think, 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 think. And look at that. She is almost completely perfectly cut out. So I'm going to take my cursor, I'm going to press my shift key, and I can take this little extra piece over here. See if I can grab this extra little piece over here. All right, well, it decided it should have this little blip on her, but we can fix that. So that's what we would have. So there she is, and we can cut her out. Put her on a new page. I'm going to take my eraser tool, and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, which you can do up here, or you can use your brackets keys on your keyboard. And we're just gonna be like, and we're gonna fix this and take a little bit of this. If we wanted to, we could use our magnifying glass here, and we could zoom in and take out some of this. I would do this not quite as quickly as I am right now, but I don't want to lose any of you. I want you to love this. So we're going to go quickly. So anyway, so that's what Andrea would look like. So I'm actually going to open her and see. So there she is, all cleaned up, looking good. I keep calling her Andrea. That's her actual name. Ramona Flowers is her character name, this particular character with a giant mallet. So there she is. So I'm going to go back to my other side. Okay, I'm back on my other monitor. So now we should be back to the green postcard. And I'm going to show you what happens if we put Andrea in there. So there she is. We can click on her. She's on, let's see, she's on layer 3. So there she is. We could move her this way or that way. But you can see, you know, just by cutting her out, that this is more interesting. You know, so we could push her all the way over here. And then I could go into this MPPL Fan Fest, which again, you'll see in your layers palette. This is my top layer, is the titling. So since it's black, that's kind of hard to read over her black mallet. So maybe we change that to something else. Maybe it's white. And then it's a little easier to read. And then we could look at this and maybe make that like a darker green. And it's looking kind of interesting. So maybe this is something, and I would have more text here, or we could also pull some stuff down just to give it some white space. Because you have to remember, when you're doing a postcard, not everything has to be on the front. You're only looking at a 7" by 5" piece of cardstock, or possibly you're looking at a 4x6 piece of cardstock, which is even smaller. So really all you need is the name of your event and the date and time of your event. It's just enough to pique people's interest so that they're turning it over. So you're looking at Andrea and you're like, oh, that looks kind of interesting, but what else could we do? You know, so we could pull her up like this, or maybe we make her into a duotone. Okay, so duotone, what does that look like? You can do it in any color. This one, she's a little dark in, but let's go back to Andrea over in Photoshop. I will not move her onto any other monitors, so she should still be in the same place. I feel like she's running from me. So there she is. I'm going to go up here in Photoshop to image. And I'm going to go into mode, and I'm going to turn Andrea into grayscale, which I'm sure all of you have done in some capacity somewhere, turned a photo to grayscale. It's going to ask me if I want to merge my layers. That's fine. It's just a blank background. So I'm discarding her color information. So there she is. So what are the reasons that we would want to make a duotone postcard? Sometimes it could just be a design aesthetic. It might be more interesting looking to have, you know, sort of that all green or all yellow or all blue. But it's also cheaper to print a duotone postcard than it is a full color postcard. So you're doing something interesting with color, but you're just using that one spot color, which is cheaper than running your postcards, especially if you're sending them to 30,000 households like we are. It's cheaper to have just those that duotone color. So here she is in grayscale, and I'm just going to go back to image mode, and I'm going to go to duotone. And I already have bright green chosen, but I could also choose another bright color. Like I could pick this really bright pink and do that. Or I could go in and pick like maybe like a turquoisey color. That would be kind of fun. So you could play with that, and then you would put that onto your other postcard. I'm going to go back to this screen. So there she is in this, and then you could put your information here. You would have your time and your date. Maybe you put for all ages or for families in all ages or something to that extent. So you're like, okay, so is this saying what we want it to say? I am a huge believer in starting my design process with the very basics. I just start out and I think, what is it that they want me to do? And what is the information that they want me to include? And that's where we started with, you know, postcard number 1. They wanted a picture. They wanted the words NPPL Fan Fest. They wanted the date and all of this information. But this is too busy. This is too much. It's a meh design. So we went through all those versions. You know, we've made it to this so far, but then we're thinking, what else could we do? You know, this event, what is the demographic I'm looking for this event? And I think back, this is really an event for families, you know, or all ages. It's not just for teens, or it's not just for comic book people. This is a very inclusive event. So we could go with something like this. So what I've done here is taken 3 of our other photos from FanFest. I've put them into Photoshop. I've turned them grayscale and then used the same image mode duotone and picked this bright green. So these photos definitely say more about what's happening at the FanFest. That, you know, smaller kids could come, older people could come, teenagers could come, 25-year-olds could come, all of those types of things. So this is an easy duotone postcard. You got your titling, you've got your date and time. You could put, you know, under here for all ages. You could put, if you have like a logo, our FanFest logo is like some little silhouettes of like wizards and robots and stuff. So we could put that down there. We could put our branding leaf down there, which I'll talk about in a minute. So that's one of the ways that you can look at it. But as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, I'm headed in the right direction. I'm interested in where this is going. I like that it's for families. I like that it's inclusive. But what if I want to push it even farther? Then maybe I go with something like this. Here's 3 different families. You know, here's a dad and his son, and either a mother-daughter or an aunt and a daughter. Here's, you know, a sister or a babysitter or whatever this is. So here we're seeing a more inclusive thing. Here I've gone back to the full color, but sort of slimmed it down, and I don't have it exactly perfect. I have each of these outlined with a stroke. So that's something that you can do over in this appearance palette over here. So you can see the fill that I'm using is this green. You can see the stroke on the photos that I'm using is a 3 point, I don't have my glasses on, 3.957 stroke. And you could just mess with these to see if you can make them fit a little bit better. Like if we think maybe we want to move that over, you know, so it's more interesting, let's give this little girl just a little bit of her face back, like this. And then that lines up, and then same thing, maybe this little girl needs a little bit of her face, and that lines up. So that gives you something, you know, mildly more interesting to look at as well. So now we've gone again, all the way from number 1, which is fine and interesting. And now we've made it to, we're on version 4.5. So we're still messing with it. I might still mess with this and like make it a little bigger. You know, maybe I'm going to go here and I'm going to tilt that a little bit and, you know, bring it out, you know, so people are really super aware. We want everyone to come and visit us. And, you know, here's our Saturday, February 22nd and when it's from, and then you would turn it over and you would see all that extra text, you know, get your geek on, you know, put your costume on, join us for cosplay, come do bingo, all of those types of things. Now, as I'm working, something that I do want to point out as the head of my department and working with 2 other designers and being a designer myself, and I also work a lot in our social media. I am the designer of our annual report every year. I do want to point out that, sorry, I need to take a drink there. You need pictures. You need pictures, you need pictures, you need pictures, you need pictures. Anybody can take pictures. If you take enough pictures, you will come up with usable photos. Don't just take one photo. When I took this photo of this Supergirl hero and this other little girl, I probably took 15 of her. Just this pose, just keep clicking. Same thing, you know, I took a couple of this dad and his son, you know, they were dressed as Indiana Jones. You know, are they perfect? No. You know, he's a little bit grinny. She's a little bit not sure that she's into this, but it's functional. You get it. They don't look sad. They look like they're having a good time. It's all fun. So I do highly recommend taking photos at your events. Send someone. You don't even have to have the best camera. I don't like cell phone photos because people usually don't have their pixels set high enough on their phones. But besides that, I do think all photos are usable in some capacity. I mean, you can even do a collage. I just did a parade collage of cell phone photos because it was 155 degrees on the day of the parade and everyone was melting and dying and didn't want their picture taken. So I just took some snapshots. But we made a little collage so we could send it out and say, thanks for coming out and supporting us with the parade. So what if you don't have any photos? What if I don't like this? What if I came back after designing this on a Tuesday and it's a Wednesday morning and I think, gosh, I just don't think this is what I want it to say, which often I will do. Then I will come back and I will think, what else says FanFest to me? You know, it's comic book based. It's inclusive, it's for families, it's fun, it's whimsical. What if I did something, whoops, that's not it. Oh, come on. All right, you can all be laughing at me now. What if I did something like this? This is totally off the cuff, completely different. I was looking through all of our, you know, canned designs, or not canned designs, canned stock footage or stock photos. We actually use CanStock, which is a photo and clip art service out of Canada, hence the CanStock name. But they have a lot of really good stuff. I have found them to be extremely helpful. We renew them every year and they have not raised our prices for like the 6 years that I've been here. I want to say it's about $900 a month, maybe. But I really think they have plenty of stuff. So this is a whole different way of looking at it. But be honest with yourself. If you got this in the mail versus this in the mail, it's a huge difference. You're really looking edit in a whole different way. And a lot of times people feel like they can't cover up a photo or they can't cover up an illustration. But here I've taken the word FanFest because that's really the most important thing. And I've put it sort of over the eyeballs of this kangaroo that's wearing a cape, because I really think it makes it more mysterious and it makes it more fun. It almost has kind of a Donnie Darko feel to it. And instead of a regular background, I've done a gradient. So there's lots of ways that you can make it more interesting. If you go to the gradient button over here, which is in your palette on the left, it'll give you a gradient. And from this, you can take these colors and drag them over and change your gradient look. I usually don't do more than 2 or 3 colors because I think it starts to get kind of barfy. And then if you double click on that over here, let's see, it should, oh, why is this not working? It should allow you to pick a gradient over and put it over here. I'm not sure why it's not working right now, but if you ever need to do it and you can't figure it out, you can email me at the library and I'll help you. So this one's a gradient green. I could take that one off. I could put the pink and blue one on there. Another thing I could do is, instead of doing something like this kangaroo with the cape, although I'm super in love with that, I could do something maybe that's a little more kid friendly, like a robot. And then you could move this, you know, down to kind of focus on that. And then I do want to point out, we do have our little logo leaf in the corner here. Something that we've been working on quite a bit in the last, I'm going to say 2 years, because the pandemic ate our souls. Probably the last 2 years, we've been really working on making the leaf recognizable as its own entity to represent Mount Prospect Public Library. Our original logo was a tree of knowledge, and it was a book with a tree coming out of it. And we've had several iterations of branches and leaves over the years. So we just designed this new leaf within the last 6 months or so. And we're going to start using that heavily as sort of our identifying logo or our identifying brand. Yeah, and branding is a big piece of design, I think. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. Branding is a big piece of design. I really do think you should pick one specific thing that goes on all of your pieces, that really, if people just catch it out of the corner of their eye, they're like, hey, that's the library. That's what the library says to me. That leaf, every time I see that leaf, it's the library. So even if I put a robot or a kangaroo wearing a cape, or someone dressed as Ramona Flowers, or any of those things, as soon as they see that leaf, that should cue in their brains that this is the library and it's going to be a cool and fun thing. So that's sort of my quick and dirty presentation. I can talk about more things if people have questions and answers. So I will turn it back to Dan, and hopefully I didn't talk too fast and I was mildly entertaining.
Your presentation was wonderful. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm going to stop the recording. And